Compiled in the Newstalk Radio Newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
Good day with your major newscast. I am Jessie Goodall. First with the highlights. Vice President Barrow Jagdeo says he has never taken a bribe. Rangers have been deployed to check sea and river defenses. In the region, a Trinidadian cultural organization wants more money before 2 music festivals can be held. Nurses at a hospital in the British Virgin Islands are on strike. And internationally, French President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday said the leaders of both Russia and Ukraine had committed to honoring the Minsk Accords. The details of these stories and more in just a moment.
Advertise with us on Newstalk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM for best coverage on programs on motivation, beauty and health, parenting and relationships, knowing your rights, and a variety of enlightening content, and get value for your money. Call our helpful staff today on 223-1056 or 223-1041 today.
Now for the news in detail. Leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Aubrey Norton, is calling on Vice President Barrow Jagdeo to prove that he did not amass his wealth through corruption. Mr. Jagdeo admits that he knows a man whose name is Mr. Sue, who is his friend and his tenant. In the interview with the United States headquartered Vice News, he admits that he helps people, but he denies that he takes bribes.
So I just heard what you read, and that's totally accurate. I help out as many people as I can. That's totally accurate what you read there. Unbelievably accurate. It's accurate. So I help people out, but it doesn't mean for consideration. It does not mean for bribe, because I believe that we have a mission to help as many people as possible move forward in this country.
Mr. Norton issued the call against the backdrop of Mr. Jagdeo's denial in an interview with the U.S.-based Vice News that he takes kickbacks from the middlemen on behalf of Chinese businesses.
I have long thrown out option for the vice president. He can take his assets, put it against his earnings in the ways normal citizens have to do to get loans from the bank, etc. And if he does that and can establish that the wealth he has is above board and not in contravention of law, then that will help to put these allegations to sleep.
The PNCR leader is also asking the vice president to make public his foreign bank accounts.
If he wants to disprove the allegation, then he can make these bank accounts that he's talking about open to the public. Let them be investigated. I have asked for a police investigation. Let them be investigated. Let him be above board. And that and only that will remove the suspicion and allegations.
Leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Aubrey Norton. Vice President Barrow Jagdeo on Tuesday night dismissed calls by People's National Congress Reform PNCR leader Aubrey Norton that he should disclose his assets and income to prove that he is not corrupt. Mr. Jagdeo insists that his declarations to the Integrity Commission show that his assets and income are matching. He says he has never taken a bribe.
On all the airwaves and the stories, Jagdeo denies taking a bribe. So already that brings associate the bribe word with my name. But let me make it very clear, there will be no evidence, there can be no evidence, because it never happened, and that's why I was so confident about it.
He says that his earnings now include a government pension and rental of a property, as well as all of his assets can be tracked back to the banking system. Mr. Jagdeo says that he does not have an overseas bank account and that he has since sold an apartment in New York that he had used often while president. Minister of Agriculture Zulfikar Mustafa says that the Rose Hall Kanji sugar factory is 41% completed, restating that the estate will be the first to be reopened after it was closed in 2018. He told the consideration of the 2022 budgetary estimates that several things have to be done before full operations begin.
Right now, the management at Rose Hall Estate, they are embarking on improving the cultivation. When we took over last year, the cultivation was abandoned. There was bushes all around in the cultivation. We had to do new tilling. We have to have enough cane in the cultivation. I don't know if the honorable member knows how cane or how sugar is being produced. We have to have enough cane in the cultivation so that we can reopen the estate. We have to ensure that we rehabilitate the entire factory. We have to ensure that we have enough ponds. We have to ensure that we rehabilitate the mill duct. We have to ensure that we rehabilitate the field equipment department. All those components, all those parts in the estate is a work in progress that we are doing continuously.
Government has allocated $2 billion Guyana dollars in this year's budget for the support to the state-owned Guyana Sugar Corporation. Rangers have been deployed to constantly check river and sea defenses. Public Works Minister Juan Edgel says the team of inspectors is checking for weak points and steps are being taken to repair them.
We're not waiting for something to collapse and then rush to fix. So the head of this agency knows where it's use of drone technology because they bought the drones. But we've also said boots on the ground. There must be men who walk. There must be men who walk these stretches, and they must be able to see where there are potential areas of deterioration. And I would like to thank the Rangers, men all across this country, because it's not just sea, but sea and river defenses.
Public Works Minister Edgel also says that there are quick reaction groups to respond to flooded areas. Public Works Minister Juan Edgel says that the Guyana government has scrapped negotiations with the first-ranked bidder for the construction of the new Demerara Harbour Bridge. He told the National Assembly during the consideration of estimates for the 2022 national budget that the government has abandoned talks with the China State Construction Engineering Corporation. The proposed cost had been $256.6 million, but Mr. Edgel says that during the negotiations, the cost was working out higher.
The negotiators have since informed the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board that they wish to terminate the negotiation process because the term sheets and the cost of financing would not serve the best interest of the people of Guyana. And currently, we are negotiating with the second-ranked responsive bidder.
The second-ranked bidder, China Railway Construction Corporation International, along with China Railway Caribbean Company Limited and China Railway Engineers, had bid to construct the new Demerara Harbour Bridge for $260.8 million or $300 million. He says that 21 billion Guyana dollars have been allocated in this year's national budget for, among other things, the compulsory purchase of properties on lands that may have to be used for the construction of the new bridge across the Demerara Harbour Bridge. The Public Works Minister refuses to give details for fear of speculation, although independent valuations of the properties have to be conducted. 3 men have been arrested in connection with the discovery of a gun, ammunition, and drugs in a house in Sophia. Police say they found 1.32 pistol, 1 magazine, 11.32 rounds of ammunition, 2 9mm rounds of ammunition, and 7.38 rounds of ammunition. The Guyana Police Force says they also found at the house in A Field, Sophia, 50 grams of marijuana and a 6-foot-tall marijuana plant. Now for the news in the region. Barbados Minister of Education Kay McConney has heard the call of scores of protesting parents who last weekend attempted to pressure the government to reopen schools for face-to-face classes. Government hopes to reopen schools on February 21 for physical face-to-face classes. As we hear from Barbados today, Ms. McConney is commending protesters who gathered last Saturday outside government headquarters armed with placards to express their disapproval of the continuation of online school, which began in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
We are intent on working across government and with all of our partners to see how it's best for us to get to a February 23rd return to 21st face-to-face return to school. And so, again, my simple comment is bravo to those who have seen it fit to exercise their democratic right and in a country that is free. And do know that we're looking forward to working with all of them to see how best we can make it to February 21st successfully.
Barbados Minister of Education Kay McConney. In Antigua, a suspended senior police officer and his 2 co-accused are to be sentenced next month for the passport scam they are believed to have committed almost 4 years ago. Assistant Superintendent of Police Ray John, his mother Yvonne Nicky, and his then partner Shakima Charles, who was an employee of the Antigua and Barbuda Passport Office, allegedly conspired to forge passports. They allegedly committed the crime by the unauthorized use of multi-layered infilling sheets belonging to the local passport office. The offense allegedly occurred sometime between October 28, 2014 and April 6, 2018. The Vincentian-born policeman, who was 45 years old at the time of his arrest, is also charged with 2 counts of larceny. He is accused of stealing 16 of the sheets valued at almost $600 and also receiving them knowing they were to be stolen. They have pleaded not guilty. They have been set a trial date of March 14, where around 30 pieces of evidence could be tendered. The alleged passport scam was uncovered early in April 2018 when police in St. Vincent and the Grenadines intercepted a man at the airport with 5 bio pages of Antigua and Barbuda passports, among other items, to include a large quantity of cash. The collaborative work between the police in St. Vincent and Antigua and Barbuda led to the police officer's arrest. And lastly, in the region, the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Calypsonians Organization, TUCO, wants at least 1 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars before 2 musical events can be held. We get more from TTT News Online.
No Kaisorama nor Calypso Fiesta unless the Trinbago Unified Calypsonians organization gets an additional $1 million. That's the word from TUCO President Ainsley King. He adds the Calypso tents are all that can be funded by the current budget.
Price structure and everything was cut. And we went into this arrangement, catering to work with the situation. But then we were not the ones who decided that it's going to be 3 weeks.
Mr. King maintains that the matter has been discussed with the National Carnival Commission, but he expects to solicit additional funding from corporate Trinidad.
What will work for us, because we had a budget of about $5 million, right? But what will work for us now, seeing that we have meet to this point, I will say approximately a 2.5 will take us through.
The TUCO president is adamant that the current budget of $1.5 million will not suffice to properly execute the annual Calypso Fiesta nor Kaisorama events.
Here now is your international news coming from the BBC.
McIntosh with the BBC News. Hello. Scientists say they've made a significant breakthrough in nuclear fusion, bringing the possibility of an almost unlimited source of power a step closer. Experiments at the European Jet Laboratory in Britain produced 59 megajoules of heat during a 5-second burst of fusion, more than doubling the previous record. Tony Don is the programme manager for the Eurofusion Consortium.
Using the unique combination of capabilities is exactly what our European collaboration of scientists and engineers has done. We overcame one hurdle after another to produce a sustained fusion plasma that released 59 megajoules of fusion energy in a 5-second pulse.
The results have raised hopes that a larger and higher spec laboratory, being built in France, will be able to reach what's known as break-even, when the energy produced by fusion matches that put in. The main defendant in the trial over the Islamist attacks on Paris in 2015 has denied killing or injuring anyone. Salah Abdeslam, who prosecutors believe is the only surviving member of the group that killed 130 people, made the declaration in court ahead of his cross-examination. Hugh Schofield reports.
Salah Abdeslam has been answering questions from the court president calmly and politely, a contrast from his more provocative manner at the start of the trial 4 months ago. But as back then, he's maintained his allegiance to the Islamic State group, on whose behalf he's alleged to have helped organise and then taken part in the November the 13th attacks. It's believed that Abdeslam travelled to Paris from his home in Brussels along with the attackers and was himself intending to blow himself up. Why he failed to do so is one of the questions that families of the victims are hoping to see answered.
Police in southern India have arrested 15 people in connection with the violence that broke out following protests against female Muslim students wearing the hijab. Demonstrations in response to some schools refusing entry to women with Islamic headscarves turned violent in some areas of Karnataka. Here's Devir Arya.
A lot of people are saying that there's politics behind the rule more than anything else because there has been no public consultation. It's not an issue that was being debated for a while, and there was no inkling that something like this would happen, nor was there any demand by any group, whether from Hindu communities or Muslim communities, to bring a uniform or to get rid of religious symbols that could be worn like a burqa or a hijab while one goes to study.
The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said he's seen progress in diplomatic efforts to ease tensions with Russia over Ukraine, but he cautioned that it was too early to say the problems had been resolved. Mr. Scholz said that Moscow had understood the message that Western allies would apply unified and effective sanctions if it attacked Ukraine. Russia denies planning an invasion. This is the World News from the BBC. The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo says it's uncovered serious evidence of a national security threat. In its first official comments, since reports emerged of a failed coup plot, it said no attempt to destabilise democratic institutions would be tolerated. On Saturday, the presidential security advisor, Francois Bayer, was arrested by forces from the National Intelligence Agency. A leading Egyptian activist who was released from jail last month has spoken of a system that amounts to mass denunciation enforced by torture. Rami Shath was detained for more than 2 years. This report from Sebastian Usher.
Rami Shah tells the BBC that one of the things that most shocked him during his detention was the influx of prisoners with little or no political involvement. He says many of those he met in jail were questioned under duress simply to provide more names for more arrests, however flimsy the basis. He says the situation was never as desperate under the rule of Hosni Mubarak. He's called on the international community to take stronger action against the Egyptian authorities to try to curb such abuses.
3 days of UN-backed seminars and workshops on protecting the world's oceans are starting in the French port city of Brest. Conservationists hope the One Ocean Summit will help finalise a legally binding UN treaty on the high seas that's been negotiated for 2 decades. The summit will tackle the thorny issues of creating marine reserves, controlling commercial fishing and mineral exploitation, and how climate change and pollution are degrading the oceans. The Dutch Central Bank has released an independent report into its historical links with the transatlantic slave trade. It says slavery remained a dynamic component of the Dutch economy well into the 19th century. The investigation also found that 3 of the bank's directors had been involved in drawing up a compensation package offered by the Dutch government to former slave owners. BBC News.
And that was your international news. Here now is a recap of the highlights. Vice President Barajagdeo says he has never taken a bribe. Rangers have been deployed to check sea and river defenses. In the region, a Trinidadian cultural organization wants more money before 2 musical festivals can be held. Nurses at a hospital in the British Virgin Islands are on strike. And internationally, French President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday said the leaders of both Russia and Ukraine had committed to honoring the Minsk Accords. And that was your major newscast. I am Jessica Daw.
This has been the news compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.